would you reckon is the state of or the health of the Indian Air Force today? And what is your impression about the defense budget?
Well, the state of the Indian Air Force, I think, is good, but at the same time, I must mention that that's a very conservative kind of expression, because we really haven't had a defense budget worth its name for about 15 years, I'd reckon, and or more even. And I think we have had the lowest budget. The question now is not as to whether we have the fighting capability. Of course we have the fighting capability if you are only thinking in terms of the neighborhood. But if you are thinking in terms of the fact that after fighting a war, would your armed forces, or your Air Force in particular, still have the kind of clout as it has today? The answer positively is in the negative. We have had no modernization for the last 25 years. What you have read in the newspapers now about the Su-30s coming in, which is a step in the right direction. And I have no doubt that this would help at least raise the morale of the Air Force, and for them to feel that, well, maybe now modernization is coming their way. I would hasten to add here that the Air Force is a very highly technological service. And as you know, that technology moves at a galloping rate. And what is most significant is that obsolescence also takes place with the same rapidity. And therefore, your battlefield environments change very rapidly. And therefore, if a country wants an Air Force, it is expensive business, but then that's your lifeline. And you've got to give whatever you can to see that you have a strong armed forces and an Air Force to support it.
Now, the present budget has really, as far as in rupee terms is concerned, it has increased quite a bit, substantial bit of increase, and the finance minister has also said that he will provide for more. Do you agree with this? Do you feel comfortable with this kind of statement?
Well, Mr. Chidambaram has done a jolly good job of work, and I must say it was started earlier by Mr. Manmohan Singh, and I have no strong grounds against it, except I would like to raise the point here. Just giving a yearly budget to the armed forces is not good enough, because the armed forces has to do a perspective plan, which is a plan over 3 planned periods or 15 years. Now, we can't be told every year that we are going to give you this much, and the next year we'll give you this much, and then try and work out a plan. It will force ad hocism. What you need to tell us, what is the bottom line? First plan now, the 9th plan, what is the kind of money that we will get? 10th plan, what is the kind of money we'll get? And the 11th plan, what kind of money we'll get? Then the armed forces would be able to do some form of in-depth perspective study, so that the short-term plans dovetail into the long-term plan. Otherwise, you're forcing them. We are not Gogia Pashas in the armed forces. Nor do we believe in tossing coins. These are very highly technological services. So it is in this context that although Mr. Chidambaram has said that if you want any more monies, we'll give it, but that is neither here nor there, because the armed forces have to be told clearly, the Army, Navy and Air Force, look, this is the total amount I will give you in the first year of the 9th plan, the second year, the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and so on and so forth.
Deviating from the subject a little bit, now we're coming to the Midair Refueling Aircraft. Now, what is a Midair Refueling Aircraft and how does it exactly work?
Well, Midair refueling really gives you the capability of deep penetration. In very simple terms, if your aircraft flying at low level, or say whatever level at whichever you're flying, was capable of doing 700 kilometers to and 700 kilometers fro, then that would give you a radius of action. Now, if you had mid-air refueling capability, you enhance these distances. Therefore, it gives you the capability of deeper penetration, and that is why we term it deep penetration. So there are 2 ways of going about this business. One is you buy machines which have far greater fuel carrying capability. F-16 is a case in point, which can outlast any other machine in the air that we have today. Or you have an aircraft which carries fuel in the air, and at a predetermined point he rendezvous with you, and you sort of drink milk off him, which means take fuel in from him, and then go that distance, come back, refuel, and come back to your base happily, so that you do not have to run out of fuel anywhere. This is the function of the deep penetration aircraft. the function of the mid-air refueling. Now, when you ask this question, let me tell you that mid-air refueling means that there are two elements to it. Firstly, there is this mother aircraft, in very simple terms, which carries all the fuel. And then there is the aircraft which requires to be refueled in the air, which has the bomb loads or whatever weapons they are carrying to enemy territory. So, if you have an aircraft, fighter aircraft, which is fitted with this capability, like most of the aircraft in the modern generation are, then in that case, all you need is a mother aircraft so that you are able to refuel at a predetermined point and come back safely to your base.
Now, we are going in for Sukhoi 30, the first batch has already arrived. And before this, I believe the Jaguars also had this inside refueling facility. Now, why is it that the Indian government has not so far gone in for a mid-air refueling?
You know, I must tell you, these fall into the category of force multipliers. We have been very careful in our country not to excite any kind of force multipliers here, even the AVACs, which is, as you know, airborne radar, so that it doesn't sort of bring in a kind of a response from the neighborhood where they are also forced into it. This was one of the philosophies we followed. Because I know when I was in the Air Force, mid-air refueling capability was very high on the priority as far as I was concerned. I have no doubt that my predecessors had the same in mind, and so I feel my successors would have the same. The point is, we did not have the monies. There were compulsions were different, whether it would have been the IMF or other kind of compulsions, where India had to show that they had the lowest defense spending, whatever be the reason. The fact of the matter is that it did not find its place, but it is a necessity, it is an important requirement, and I do hope that the government would be able to support such a purchase.
How will the lack of a mid-air refueling aircraft, you know, what are the implications it's going to have as far as war is concerned?
You see, if we look at wars with a very a kind of a tunnel approach that we have only a neighborhood to address, then maybe it may not be that significant. But look, let's face it, India doesn't have to just look across the western border and say that this is the target. India is a big country. In 2020 AD, I have no doubt we'll be the fourth largest regional power in the world. Surely our aim should not be this. Look at China. China does not talk in terms of just our neighborhood. She's talking in much bigger terms because she knows that she's going to be someone who matters and you have to reckon with. And it is her philosophy that has even made USA sort of flirt with her, because USA realizes that China is strong. Now, we have to do something of the kind, and we should stop addressing ourselves just merely to our neighborhood, and we should think big. India is a very big country, a large country. We have tremendous potential, and I think it's shameful if we should just address ourselves in very narrow elements.
About a mid-air refueling aircraft, is it possible to convert, you know, any of the civilian, aircraft as it exists into a mother aircraft? Is it possible?
Yes, yes. You have examples replete. Boeings have been used for the same person. Boeing is a civil aircraft. You don't require a fighter aircraft for this purpose. You could convert any of those machines. There are many other aircraft that can, but I don't think that's really necessary to discuss it on a TV. But definitely we have the, if there's serious business, you'll have to get machines of this nature, and you may be able to convert your own.
India has this know-how.
Well, India has aircraft which can be converted into it. I would like to say more on this because I'd rather leave it to the current chief to give his views on the subject.
Okay, last question. Now, how many mother aircraft or mid-air refueling aircraft would the IAF need to cover all the squadrons?
Well, as you know that we are the fourth largest air force in the world. But let me also hasten to add that we are also among the countries in the world which has the oldest aircraft on its inventory. The aircraft of the developed world, for instance, they have 2/3 of their force which are high technology, and 1/3 is between medium technology and possibly a sprinkling of low technology. In our case, It's different. It's 1/3 possibly is of high technology, and the balance 2/3 has a sprinkling of medium technology, but bulk of them are low technology. Now the question is that even if you were able to convert this, as you know, India is a very large country. Its borders with Pakistan, China, its coastlines are tremendous. So it will be a Herculean task that way. But then you don't have mid-air refueling capabilities per squadron. They are kept more for a particular purpose, for a certain number of aircraft which are required to go deeper in. And no Air Force in the world can afford a ratio which would be, say, to support 4 aircraft, they would have 1 mid-air refueling. No country, including America, cannot afford it. So that the Air Force will have to calculate in conjunction with the Army, Navy, Air Force as to how they wish to fight wars, as where their wars are going to be fought, what will be the kind of force levels required, what will be the political aims in these wars, and then alone will you be able to calculate. It's hypothetical as far as I'm concerned, because I can't take a guess. Correct. It's like this. You're not rolling the camera? No, you come in a car. This car travels at a certain rate. Let me say I put an auxiliary engine onto it. You go that much faster.
Okay.
That's a multiplier. That means no other car can overtake you.
You have to keep the defense budget low.
Yes. You have to keep the defense budget low. You see what our people have begun to feel that look, there is security. If there's a war, we will only fight again.
That will definitely be.
That definitely.
Yeah.
And so that is what a force multiplier. It gives you that much more multiplication without adding new aircraft.
Confident as far as the air defense system goes, and as far as... Okay, there's one more thing which I want to ask. Mulayam Singh, now more than he knows about defense, but do you feel that he is about the only defense minister who's actually, given something new to the Air Force? Or, I mean, I'm talking about I was talking to Major General Ashok Mehta Sunday. So he was telling me that there's a lot of discontent in the armed forces for some time now. For instance, you had Admiral Shekhawat, just before he retired, he went across to Bombay, etc. He made a lot of statements about the... Now that she's come into power. Do you think